Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi. It's Wednesday night, coming up on 7:30 Eastern Time, and just want to right off the bat with what's going on radars tonight. If you are watching this live stream after it's been recorded, if you're watching it in playback sometime later on tonight, be advised that the radars are all timed out between 7 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So you would want to check with your local National Weather Service forecast office and to see the current radar and the status of any severe weather that is going on. Kind of a busy night tonight across the east, parts of the east and mid-Atlantic, but particularly when we look at the radar, the regional radar view off to the side here. On the left, we've got some showers and thunderstorms moving across eastern Virginia, again, much like yesterday, and into eastern North Carolina. Also, some weak showers, some very light showers that are moving across parts of the Hudson Valley and northern New Jersey. Some of that's not even reaching the ground, but when we look down in southern Pennsylvania, looks like from the westernmost edge of what we would consider south central Pennsylvania westward into parts of western Maryland, northern Virginia. There are some strong thunderstorms there, and we have activity that is also going on out further to the west. And I want to bring up the national radar view here this evening because we've got two waves of low pressure that are in play at the moment, and you can see the area that's in the east. We are seeing this lead wave that is going to be bringing some rain to areas, parts of eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England overnight. And then when you look out in the Midwest, in the middle Mississippi Valley, and then arcing back through Iowa and into southern Minnesota, there's a low, a second wave that's going to be an issue for the weekend in the east, and that is now into in Iowa. So ahead of that in the warm sector, we've got a pretty impressive line of strong thunderstorms that have developed in eastern Iowa, right along the Illinois-Iowa border. Northeastern Missouri cuts the state of Missouri. That line does right in half on a diagonal, and then runs down and also cutting through eastern Oklahoma. We still also have, by the way, some heavy rains as a result of the upper trough / tropical wave that has impacted the Texas coast and into western Louisiana. The action today is more along the Texas coast, down from south and west of Houston down to about Corpus Christi. We're seeing some heavy rains there, and some scattered showers and thunderstorms in the southeast and into parts of northern Florida. So fairly active tonight. We'll give you the view with respect to severe weather, and we'll bring up the Storm Prediction Center. Whoops. Here we go. The Storm Prediction Center's current map with the radar as of 7:30 Eastern Time. In fact, I can, let me just freshen this up, and we'll freshen that map up for you so you can see where the latest echoes are. And the red area outlined there right in Iowa to the Illinois border, that's where we have a tornado watch up. And you can see that line of storms that extends southwestward from there, and also in the east in an area that is considered slight risk of severe weather is where we have what's moving through parts of Maryland and southern Pennsylvania, Maryland, and down into Virginia, into southeastern Virginia. So kind of busy here as we look at what's going to be happening tonight, and the pattern is going to be a bit busy over the next couple of days. The rainfall over the next 7 days looks to be substantial over a fairly large area from Virginia and northern North Carolina back through West Virginia, Kentucky, back also through Ohio, and up through in northern Indiana and Illinois. We've got that brighter red, which would be the 4-inch plus amounts, and also back through parts of Kansas and into northern Oklahoma. The rains down through Texas subside a bit over the next 7 days, and also we're seeing some 1 to 2 inch rain amounts, which would probably be the usual diurnal stuff that will be happening in Florida. We don't have any specific tropical weather systems here to worry about, but we've got the nation basically split in half, at least in the eastern half of the U.S., right along 35 degrees north, or a little bit further north than that, as there's been this persistent frontal boundary, and you get these waves that develop on it, and as a result, somebody's going to get clobbered with some heavy rains, and that is what we're really looking at as we go through the next couple of days. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to bring up the HRRR model, and where did it go? There it is. So let me bring it up front and center. I want to bring up the HRRR model because it seems as if this model has been doing a little better today than some of the other short range models. So we're going to take a look at this in terms of what is happening, and we're looking at two distinct arcs of precip here. This is as of 8 o'clock on the HRRR. Let me see if we've got the latest one out, and we do, in fact, so we could start with that. So here is the latest HRRR. Hour 1 was 7 o'clock. The view here mimics what you saw on the radar. So you've got the two areas, the area in the east, the lead wave that is coming out now, and then the second wave that is going to eventually impact the eastern part of the United States over the weekend. Now, the first wave is blossoming a bit as we go into the overnight period. Low pressure develops there. We get some heavy rains that move across the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area and into the Delmarva Peninsula, parts of southern New Jersey, right to about New York City and Long Island, and then it kind of cuts off from there. This is at 5 a.m. on Thursday. The area out in the west with that low is still sitting there. The thunderstorms, of course, diminishing in intensity after dark, so they're going to be weakening, though there will be some active areas of rain and thunderstorms down through western Tennessee, northwestern Mississippi, northwestern Louisiana, into southeast Texas. The low in the east moves out, high pressure builds in, and weather conditions improve, but the next system is going to be getting ready to spin its way eastward, and at this point, we're at noon on Thursday. Still a leftover shower or two over parts of coastal southern New England, but weather conditions should be improving across my area tomorrow, with clouds maybe giving way to some afternoon sunshine. But that next weather system is right behind it, and you can see they're kind of lined up. 35 degrees north is close to the North Carolina-Virginia border here. So it's actually a little bit further north than that. The frontal boundary line is more along, say, 37, 38 degrees north, and runs, fairly east-west from the first wave back over to the second low that is back over into northwestern Missouri. This is as of, again, noon on Thursday. So from here, I'm going to switch over to the NAM model to take us a bit further. So this is how the NAM sees things tomorrow at noon. It has a bit more of a widespread look to it with the system to the west, less with the system to the east. The NAM has not handled this particularly well, so I'm a little cautious here for both of these systems. It seems to not be doing well lately in its short-range view of things. We are going to move this along. So once that first wave goes out, the second wave comes in. Now, the severe weather threat for Thursday is a bit less from the Storm Prediction Center, as they only really are indicating a marginal risk. But that low is going to gradually translate northeastward, and the frontal boundary is going to start to move up northward as a warm front. So we're probably going to see some showers in my neck of the woods, certainly back up through northeastern Virginia early Friday, and then gradually spreading up by Friday night into New Jersey and southern New England. It doesn't look like a whole lot here, but The warm front's going to probably get hung up a bit to the south, so we're likely to see an onshore flow develop here on Friday and continue through at least part of Saturday. Meanwhile, that next low is finally running northeastward up toward southeastern Michigan, and the warm front does go by. Then the cold front will probably try to come through here early Sunday morning. So if you're planning the weekend, I would suggest that the Sunday might wind up being a bit of a better day than Saturday. The problem is that there's a second front that's going to be coming through, and here's the GFS now as we go forward. So the second front is approaching the coast by Sunday evening. It's a little faster on this run and pushes everything further south. It actually really bubbles up some pretty strong activity in southeastern Virginia on Sunday. I also want to point out for Sunday, late Sunday afternoon and Sunday night in Kansas, West Kansas, and on up through eastern Colorado, eastern Wyoming, this could be an important severe weather outbreak here, as the GFS has been kind of pushing this idea for the last 4 or 5 runs now, and it's been fairly consistent. So it really kind of goes hog wild with this stuff back out through the plains. Now in the east, once that second front goes by, we've got this high that's coming down from the north, and that's going to push the frontal boundary further south this time around. So at least we'll get some nice weather coming in for the first part of next week, and it's going to be on the cool side for a couple of days, relatively speaking. 70s by day to maybe near 80. Again, talking my area, maybe lower 80s as you get down further south into Maryland and Northern Virginia. Notice the isobars are coming from the east, so we're getting a bit of an ocean flow here. Low pressure going to be off the South Carolina coast at this point with a trailing front, so it kind of makes sense that we're going to be on the cool side for a couple of days. But after that, we're going to see a bit of a change, and the model on this run for some reason spins up this coastal low a bit as it moves northeast from the Carolinas and gradually dissipates it. I don't know whether it is seeing this as some kind of tropical or subtropical system in the long range. I don't think it really is worth getting too involved in that at this point. That's something for when we get to the weekend and into early next week. We'll revisit it. But let me show you what's happening, at least in terms of the upper air, because we are seeing some changes in the pattern as we head toward the end of the month and into the beginning of July, at least for a few days anyway. So we'll bring up the 500 here, the 18,000 foot view, 500 millibars, and we'll come back to the beginning. You know, one of the things that we have been talking about for quite a while is this persistent trough that's been from eastern New England to the Canadian Maritime provinces, and that continues to hold firm here through the Thursday. This is for Thursday. There's that next system that the trough lifts out a bit in eastern Canada, so that allows this system from the plains to move eastward and lift up. But notice here's another arm that comes down for Sunday night and Monday. So it is moving along again. Last night, the GFS was trying to stretch this out and cut it off, but it didn't do that today. It's just going back to what it had before, which is just basically a progressive trough moving from west to east. And once that goes, it looks like the jet in Canada is going to relax a little bit. There's still some noise and short waves running around here, so that'll impact the day-to-day weather. But in general, it's trying to build a ridge of high pressure into the east as we move into the very last days of June and into the first couple of days of July. So the jet gets pushed up north. Now this would suggest that we could get into some rather warm, very warm and humid conditions. I don't know about hot for my area, but certainly could be very warm and very humid. Hot for me is temperatures in the 90s. So when I'm thinking very warm, you know, I'm thinking mid 80s to maybe near 90, with increasing humidity, of course, as we move in toward the 4th of July. That northern jet, by the way, still stays fairly close. So one of the things we're going to have to look for is that there's winds up being another short wave or two, in that northwest flow that comes down and maybe cuts the heat off. It certainly is suggestive of this as we move through the first week of July, at least on this operational run. I didn't get a chance to look at the ensembles to see if there's if this idea holds. The general pattern here has been that when these ridges do appear, they don't seem to last very long, and that I think, in my mind, in terms of forecasting, that is something that I'm going to hold on to in terms of my approach to all this until proven otherwise. Until I see something that looks like it's going to sustain itself, I'm not going to try to be a hero at this point as far as the long range is concerned. The overall flavor, by the way, does show when we look at the upper air looking at the whole northern hemisphere. There actually is a bit of a blocking high that builds up from eastern Greenland eastward. So the NAO is a bit east-based, and a lot of times this time of year, when you see that, it does tend to favor a ridge building in the eastern part of the United States. And you also have troughing in the west. So the negative NAO doesn't always lead to troughing in the east, as we've seen that from time to time. A lot of other things have to come into play, and in the west, because you still have some troughing there in the west, it's going to want to bring up the ridge in the east. Now, late in the period, you start to see the troughing come back into eastern Canada. So that's, I think we're going to be looking at for model consistency, as we said, going through the next couple of days. Back to the short range. Let's just kind of look at what the GFS is doing with respect to rainfall here. I'm going to take us into Monday and bring up the rainfall, the total accumulated precip of what the model is doing anyhow. And this is through Monday morning, and you can see from the mid-Atlantic states back across the Ohio Valley, you're talking 2, 3, and some local 4-inch amounts between now and next Monday morning. Also, for what we were talking about with respect to Sunday into Monday, across the western plains and in the eastern Rockies, also showing some substantial rainfall amounts there on the order of 2, 3, 4, and even some 5-inch amounts. And I just pushed it up to a Tuesday afternoon, and you can add a little bit more to all of this. So the next week is going to be a wet one for a large area. It doesn't mean that it rains every waking minute, but the zones that have been getting rain in the last number of weeks, particularly across parts of the mid-Atlantic states, on back westward into the Ohio Valley, and now extending back into the Central Plains, that is going to continue going forward. With regards to the tropics, really don't see too much going on. There might be something in the long range at the Pacific, but that's an out to sea thing. As far as the Atlantic is concerned, we really don't see anything on the GFS that looks like it's going to want to do anything. There's just nothing there at this point. This time of year, June, occasionally you pop up with a storm or two, and then you can go to several years without seeing anything. July, usually the first part of July, tends to be a little less active than June for some odd reason, and then it picks up late in the month. But as we go forward over the next couple of weeks, we really don't see anything in the Atlantic other than whatever the GFS is trying to do with spinning up this low off the East Coast. And if it does that, it's not something, as I said earlier, it's not something that I'm going to really address, really want to address at this point. It's just too far out into the long range and too far fetched. But there's nothing here to speak of. It just kind of looks like a straight easterly flow across the Atlantic from Africa into the Caribbean. Pressures don't seem to be especially low anywhere. You've got that high sitting in the Atlantic between the Azores and Bermuda. It's pretty persistent. Doesn't do very much. So it doesn't seem to be like we're going to have to we're going to be dealing with any kind of tropical systems anytime soon. So let me come back. Tomorrow's the summer arrives tomorrow, and the summer solstice, and it's downhill from there as the days start getting shorter. The snow lovers are already jumping up and down about that. I can certainly attest to that fact. I've already seen a few comments along the way in other places. Jason Schaefer, you haven't been around in a while. Good to see you. Johnny Quest here. Get ready for some more rain there. Mirtha Gunter, will we get some rain from the Mid-Atlantic system that's coming through? Well, you're going to get some showers and thunderstorms now that are going on tonight. That first wave is probably not going to play out. Is playing itself out now. The second one for Saturday into Sunday, you'll probably see some, and Sunday night with that weather front pushing down, you're probably going to see some showers and thunderstorms from that whole complex. T-Bear, hello, Joe. Hope all is well, and it is a decent day here in Northeast PA. Sunny and actually got hot this afternoon. Not much rain as of now. The radar over you was drying up this evening, and I don't think you're going to get very much from this. Most of it's going to be across southern and southeastern PA. Blorox Cleach is betting that the pattern change is going to lead to possible sustained heat. Well, for some areas, I think it probably will. I'm just wondering, where the northern extent of that is going to be. Is it going to be, to me? Is it going to be a little bit further south? Am I going to be susceptible to some fronts coming down from the flow with that Canadian jet running just to my north? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Let's see. David Allen. Could I look at the rainfall for Europe? It has been dry since May. We've only had 0.07 of an inch since May 27th and 400 since May 1st. 0.4. It's been warm, too warm, that will continue after the northerly. Okay, David, I assume you're talking. Are you in England? I'm just wondering, where are you? Let me know where you are. I'll take a look at the. We can bring up the map of Europe. Let's bring that forward and see what's happening. Honestly, I haven't been really paying close attention to weather across the pond in the last couple of weeks, but I'll give it a look here. So this is the rainfall profile of the GFS. Let's keep it even. So let's go right to the end of June 30th. So this is the forecast rainfall amounts. Let me make sure that you can see that. Hang on. It might be smart if I make it big enough for you guys to see. So here we go. Here we go. So this is the GFS rainfall forecast for Europe for the next, today is the 20th, so for the next 10 days. And you can see that much of Western Europe, with the exception of a couple of pockets, fairly dry. Much of the activity seems to be concentrated more as you get down into the Mediterranean and across Eastern Europe, where their rainfall is looking to be rather substantial. Why don't we punch up the upper air to see what's going on? And this would kind of explain it with, the deep trough and wrapped up cutoff low that's sitting east of the Ukraine and then extending down into the Eastern Mediterranean. Now this is late in the period, so let's see how it gets there. I'm just going to make sure that you guys can see this. But at least at the starting point today, you've got an east-west ridge from Spain and France eastward across southern areas of Eastern Europe, troughing that swings through Britain and into northwestern Europe. You get this vigorous upper low that develops there in east of Scandinavia, with a fairly deep long wave trough that runs all the way down into the Mediterranean. That's a fairly amplified look. And there's the big ridge that builds over England and Ireland as we move toward June. Now we're at June 25th, 26th. You got this big upper high. You know, that we saw on the other view, the edge of the upper high pushing into Greenland and Iceland. So this is where it's actually sitting over England and Scandinavia, and it just kind of sits there right through the forecast period, and this trough just gets amplified back through Eastern Europe. So I think it kind of makes sense that the rains are going to be, you know, lined up. You got where you have this deep trough. That's where your heavy rains are going to be. And in this ridge position, until it breaks down, it's probably going to be drier than average throughout much of Western Europe and the British Isles. You do start to get some systems spinning out in the Atlantic, but even so, it really doesn't look like the dry pattern that you've been in. It really doesn't look like that dry pattern that you've been in looks to change anytime soon in the long range. It's very interesting to see that kind of amplitude this time of year. But you know what? It's still there, and stranger things have happened, believe me, over time. So I'm going to come back to your chat. Let me just bring myself up to the front screen here. By the way, there is no Joe Rayo, Joe Cioffi show tonight on Facebook because Joe has the night off. So I'm soloing today. Let's see. My voice sounds better. It does. Every day a little bit better. Thank you, Keith Smolin. Raymond, no severe weather risk for you this week. That's for sure. Not with those highs coming down from the north. James, NASCAR fan, reminding everybody of my favorite phrase, which is the trend is your friend. You're in central England. No problem. So you saw, David, what's going on. You're with that big ridge that's going to be over Western Europe. It's going to be really hard for you to squeeze out any kind of rainfall anytime soon. Anna Maria Passaretti, nice to see you there. William Huber, thanks for being here tonight. Slight drizzle with Patricia Patrylak in Larksville, northeastern Pennsylvania. Yeah, the radar is showing a lot of that stuff drying out in the northern part of it, not the southern part of it. It's amazing how models change in the course of the day with those short-range models. You think something's going to happen, and we've seen some model volatility even in the HRRR. When you're inside 18 hours, you think you wouldn't see that much volatility, but you do. Don't want to forget Delvin and Charles Baker. Nice to see both of you here, and Doug Crum, also good to see you. Nicole Sweet, Blorox Cleach. I get a kick out of that. I really think that's a great name. Right out of Wacky Packages. For those of you old enough to remember what Wacky Packages are, they were parodies of stickers and cards that used to parody products that were that you buy in the supermarket or or the drugstore or whatever. Did I notice fewer bugs while fishing? Andy Salcius, is that? I hope I'm saying that right. When I was up in Connecticut, they were around, but I didn't happen to, they weren't especially bothersome, and so I don't know. They didn't seem like there were a lot. I did notice that there were a lot of the mosquitoes and flies were landing on the water for the most part, but in terms of what was in the woods and flying around or on the edge by the water's edge, I didn't particularly see a whole lot of insects. You'll see. I don't know if that's a result of the cold start to the spring. Maybe everything is a bit late to get going. I'm not so sure. No, the HRRR, Raymond, is an actual model. That's not experimental. There is an experimental version of it, the HRRX. I don't know whether that became the operational or not. I don't always pay. Honestly, I don't always pay close attention to those to those things. I'll ask one of my weather service buddies what the status is with that. Raining heat for Johnny Quest, supposed to get quite a bit of rain over the next 7 days. Well, you're certainly, it showed you what WPC had and what the GFS has. Yes, it looks like, you could get at least another several inches of rain or more, and the high humidity that goes with it. that you're in the target zone this year. Every year there's always one target area that gets clobbered with a lot of rain, and thunderstorms will seem to always set up in that one particular spot. And this year it seems like it's across the mid-Atlantic states, which probably makes up for the last few years where in some of those years a lot of those areas were bone dry. Andrea John from saying hi from Trinidad Tobago. Nice to see you here. Tropics are quiet for you and should remain so no worries there at the moment, which is a good thing. Last year in June we had a system that formed in the tropical Atlantic out near 50, I think it was somewhere around 8 or 9 north and about 50-ish west. I got to go back and look. I forgot the name of it, but it was the earliest we had seen a tropical system in that portion of the tropical Atlantic. Very, very unusual. But we've got nothing like that this time around. So that's a good thing. All right, folks, coming up now, we're at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So let me just remind you again, if you joined late and you're watching this live stream later on this evening or overnight, be advised that those radar shots that we showed you from earlier were taken between 7 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to check your local National Weather Service office, your local National Weather Service forecast office. You can access that at weather.gov and to check to see the latest radars and any watches or warnings that are up at the time you're watching. So this way you have the absolute latest information. You'll see mine, it's already dated. Also, just as a mention, you can support my channel if you shop on Amazon, if you use the link that's on the descriptor of this live stream or on the video in the video library. We're a participant in the Amazon Services Associates program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for my channel to earn fees by linking to Amazon and its affiliated sites. So if you shop on Amazon, you go through my link, you get your stuff, and Amazon throws me back some coin, and everybody's happy, and it's an easy way to support my channel, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And for those of you who have, and I know a number of you have, I really, truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Also, just want to mention that I will be coming out with a few new things in the next couple of weeks, and I'm working on them right now with a friend of mine, so hopefully we'll get this done before July gets underway, and as soon as I have everything in place, I will let you know what it is and how to get it. And I can tell you, I will tell you is whatever it is, it's going to be free. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that for the moment. And in the meantime, again, no Joe Cioffi show tonight, as Joe has the night off, but he'll be back tomorrow night, and as will I, right here on my YouTube channel, and also with Joe Rayo on the Joe and Joe Show. Thanks very much for being here tonight. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We will see you tomorrow.